We all need a deep breath during this time.
Maybe a little more than that. Something stronger.
Something stronger.
We good to go, sir?
We're good to go. Yeah.
Good to see you, man.
Great to see you too.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome to Raise Your State podcast, video cast. We're not quite sure what to call it, but here we are after about 2.5 weeks of taking time off, enjoying the festivities, enjoying the holidays, trying not to lose our minds. But now that you're back, man, it's super exciting because I've been meaning to talk with you about a few things, and I'm sure you have a few things you want to talk about too.
Yeah, I've been itching.
Sweet.
There's lots to talk about. So should we dial in some music and get to it?
Yes. People, buckle up for another beautiful song. This one is to help us get through these rainy days, to help us feel a little more optimistic about what's to come, because there's a whole lot of good in our future. And if you can sit back and enjoy for about 3.5 minutes, I promise you that you're going to love what you hear. Thank you for being on this journey with us. Welcome to Raise Your State.
Summer, someday. Summer, someday.
And we're back.
And what were we just talking? What were we just talking about before the music cut off? Well, this artist. And what'd you say?
How he went off the map.
How he went off the map.
So this artist creates a bunch of beautiful songs, like the one you just heard, and then stops making music and kind of disappears. and dozens of fans reaching out asking, "Where are you, man? When are you going to make your next track? What's going on?" And nothing. And I mean, hopefully he's not dead, but I think sometimes people just want to check out.
As long as he's not dead, I hope my hope would be that he's gone off the grid or something. And
Yeah.
I respect artists like that. There's this one, I mentioned him to you. This one artist, his name is John 12 Hawks, and he has, I think this series is called the Fourth Realm series, and just a brilliant trilogy. And it's like this kind of counterculture, like novel, like talking about these different things that are kind of like taboo. Um, about the powers that be and things like that. And nobody knows who this guy is. Not a single person. Not even
Crazy.
not even the editor.
What?
No, like nobody knows who he is, and he's just like totally off the grid.
So he's like a ghostwriter kind of, or like, I guess that's not even the right term.
No, it's not the right term because ghostwriter's like
Right for somebody else.
right for somebody
Right,
else. This is
right.
like he's just
Anonymous.
like not his real name.
What
Like,
kind of stuff is he writing about?
well, in this series, it's like this about this. I think her name's Maya. It's been a while since I've read it, but Maya and then Gabriel, and like it's this kind of this epic adventure about them like traveling into these different realms, but then like fighting the Tabula, who are like the controllers of the world, which is real thing, real thing, and it's badass.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's what we were talking about earlier, is artists telling the truth through their art,
mhm,
right? Because it's when you get to a certain level in this game, you're going to get a knock at the door from somebody saying, "Hey, you're getting a lot of attention," right? And um, people wanting to influence how you come across. And it starts with something very small. Don't talk about that. Hey, shift the topic there. Hey, bring this guest on, right? Little manipulations. I don't think all these people are bad, but I think when you get enough attention, I think that there's an incentive for the people running the show to try to get you in their pocket,
mhm.
right? Which makes for a very complicated world, which makes for a world in which you don't know who to listen to. And that's the world we're in,
It's the world we're in.
right? We're experiencing all kinds of crazy with Capitol Hill being stormed, right? With all this COVID stuff. And yeah, who do you listen to? Who do you trust? And I think that should be a little bit of the theme of what we talk about today.
Absolutely. And that's I don't personally know who to trust. And like I want to state right now that like I don't have all the answers. Like I think you said that as well earlier, that we don't have the answers, but I think bringing up this discussion, like at least discussing it, is super important.
Super important. And talking about what matters, because it's easy to get lost in the details of what he said or she said, or what politician didn't wear a mask doing this, and what that means, and who should be fired and who should be brought in, and what it's just, there's so many details. And Shakespeare famously said, all of life's a play, right? Or all of life's a stage is what he said. And it's like, it seems more true than ever with the stuff going on. That storming of Capitol Hill stuff it's right out of a movie. It's crazy. And you could look at it and think that some random rioters came together and overpowered the Secret Service and entered the Capitol, and there's little old ladies sitting in senators' chairs and stuff, and that's all just everyday occurrence. Or you can look past that and think, well, if this was an engineered event, why would it be engineered? What does that mean? What are they trying to get us to feel or to see? Or how are they trying to divide us?
Mm-hmm.
Red versus blue.
Red versus blue. And I think that that's what they want. They want the people, the Trump supporters, and then against the Democrats, the Biden supporters in this case, and that clash. And like it's really like it's just this binary system that's keeping us in the state of consciousness that we're in right now as a human species. And this is like getting a little bit higher level, but if we can't break out of this yes or no, this black and white,
Good or bad.
yeah, red and blue, then we're just not going to be able to like evolve to this next stage. And I'm as guilty as anybody, man. Like I personally like just as a human being, I just don't like Trump. Like I just don't like him.
Yeah.
But so I get into it too, right? It's like I start thinking about it, I'm like, oh, I just don't like him, right? I'm even doing it right now.
Yeah.
It's hard as human beings to break out of that. It really is.
Yeah, and we're being played like little puppets.
Yeah.
Right? People can pull our strings because we're giving our power away, because we're putting our faith in red or blue, in the system, in the good guy and the bad guy. And the dividing line that's drawn all the time is to try to get you to think who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. And Hollywood's done a beautiful job of this. There's a good guy and a bad guy. So in every situation, we're always thinking who's good, who's bad, what's right, what's wrong. It's like you said, that dualistic mindset. And it stops us from seeing the nuances of everything. One thing I found interesting was there was this the famous Japanese anime director who passed away from Studio Ghibli, who does
Oh,
all those amazing anime movies.
like Spirited Away. That
Yeah, all that stuff, Princess Mononoke, everything,
he passed
and
away. Wow.
passed away, I believe, a couple of years ago. And in all of the anime movies, there was a similar theme where there was always a bad guy, but by the end of the movie, the bad guy ended up having an epiphany and breaking through and seeing the error of their ways. And by the end of the movie, there was no bad guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, how do you create art to help vibe people up? You destroy the idea of the enemy, the bad guy. You
Mm-hmm.
make everybody just a soul, a human. And some people who have made enough mistakes thinking there's no opportunity for rebirth. But everybody deserves to be reborn and be seen. Everybody deserves to have another chance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem with Hollywood. I mean, there's a lot of problems with Hollywood, but that's one of the big problems, right? People are looking at these Hollywood movies thinking, oh, there's occult imagery, there's this, there's that. I think the ultimate fuckery is the good guy and the bad guy. And the good guy always wins. And if the good guy's always winning, we think that the good guy's always going to win or the good guy's in charge currently. And I think all of that is just um, far from the truth.
Far from the truth.
Yeah.
Well, we were discussing it the other day, right? How let's use Tom Cruise. I mean, Tom
Tom
Cruise
Cruise.
is one of the one of the easy ones to pick,
Yeah.
but Tom Cruise, the White Knight,
The White Knight.
always slays the dragon or
Yeah.
always beats the evil
Tom,
bad guy.
Tom Cruise always wins.
He always wins.
Yeah.
And them making us think like the good guy, the White Knight, is always winning. But what if it's inverted? What if that White Knight is, the bad guy, or I know, again, we're getting into those terms, right?
Right, right. Yeah, and an agent for deception is probably a better word,
Yeah.
right? Because and if you pull it back, and you realize that this human experience is an illusion, then it's easier to hold on to your sanity. But if you're just trying to figure out what the heck is going on these days with Wuhan flu, with the storming of the Capitol, with Trump, with all of it, it's a crazy hot mess. It's
Mhm.
enough to drive you crazy. And so part of our conversation today is going to be about how if you focus on all the details of this world, the politics, if you get granular, um, it's going to reduce your passion, your drive, your energy, because you're going to be focusing on something and giving your energy away to an outside source. And so, yeah, I know one of the ways for me is to detach myself from all that stuff. It's like you get some people that think that they need to watch the news every day to stay informed, right? I haven't seen the news I haven't watched news on TV for years and years and years and years. And like most people, I just get my news on the internet now and I kind of pick and choose. But some people, especially older generations, they're on CNN all the time.
All the time.
And the message is just a whole lot of fear. And now that we're starting this new year, it's like we have an opportunity to begin anew.
Hmm. And they really are. I mean, and it's become more mainstream. Like it used to be more in that conspiracy realm that like, oh no, like the news is they're not bad, or they give genuine information, but it's like genuine, like pretty much across the board, all crap.
It's bad.
It's bad.
It's bad. Yeah.
It's like they're literally the people that are giving it to are just talking heads, right? And they're being
Reading the
paid,
scripts.
just reading a script, whatever. And you can look it up. I mean, I've seen so many different clips now of different politicians here in Canada that are behind the scenes. They're like, yeah, I just do whatever they tell me and basically read whatever I'm supposed to read off this paper,
Totally.
And there's no like their own thinking behind it. And that's not for everybody. There's beautiful and empowered politicians like anything, right? But there's also a lot of fuckery.
Yeah, and I think the problem comes when we start placing placing our faith and our belief, our unquestioning belief in an outside source. When we choose a champion, I'm for Trump. And so this is how I think. I'm for Biden, so this is how I think. Well, I'm a Democrat, so this is how I think, right? I vote for him and he's saying some stuff I'm not quite, but this is where I think. And it stops you from thinking for yourself. And the most important question is like, what do you think?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that I find people asking themselves less and less, or even incapable of answering. They just spit back something that they've heard, right? Something that they believe in. But no, it's like, what do you think? What are you processing with everything that you've pulled in? And it's complicated, man. It's really complicated. It's there's a lot of inversion and fuckery in society, and it's designed to keep us stupid. And it's like, yeah, we think we're free. We think we understand democracy. We think we understand the lay of the land. But again, like Shakespeare said, life's a stage.
Life's a stage.
So, but we're at a new point in our year, right? The new year. And I thought we should talk a little bit about that. One of the things I think we should talk about is reflection, right? I think a lot of people enter the new year and right away it's, what am I going to do to better myself? What are my new goals I'm going to hit? My New Year's resolutions, and we haven't stopped to look at the last year. And last year with COVID, man, this last year that everybody's been going through has been hard. It hasn't been hard for everybody. It hasn't been hard for the billionaires getting rich and the wealth transfer heading up to the top. It's been hard for everybody else,
Mm-hmm.
psychologically, financially, emotionally, health wise, in every way possible,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I try to look back at my year and what I've learned from it, and I have never been squeezed so much from just a year. I've had events that have squeezed me, but the long drudging, when's it going to be over? When can we be social? When can I go high five some people in a club and hug and dance? And
Mm-hmm.
it's been long. It's been hard. And I've learned a lot about myself during this time. And what I've learned most is that, as cheesy as it sounds, it takes a lot of pressure to make a diamond,
Mm-hmm.
right? And all this squeeze has really helped me to figure out who I am a little bit more. What about you, man? How's this last year been for you?
It's been a lot of up and down. I know people have been talking about like the roller coaster effect of it, right? And there's been so much of it that, yeah, has been like phenomenal. And I feel like you say, feel like a rough rock and like being like squeezed and like turning more and more into that diamond that I want to be. And even working a city job until March of 2020, I was still doing that. And then because of COVID and everything that happened, like that went away, and it was honestly like a freaking blessing. And like it just, I just was able to focus more on like digital marketing work and focus more on my yoga and these other things. And then yeah, it's like it's empowered me that I don't need that other job. I can like leave that behind and like go fully towards like my creativity and what I want to do, right? But at other times it's been so freaking frustrating, like especially being a yoga teacher and seeing like the glory days of yoga. Like you have like
Mm.
the one main studio that I teach at, like 50, 55 people just crammed into a studio, sweating
Jeez, yeah.
together. It's like dialed in, like just like this beautiful experience. Like inhale, like as a teacher too, like inhale, like everyone's raising their arms, exhale, like everyone's like bowing to the earth, like, and like everybody's synced in their energy. It's like this fucking powerful experience, right?
Connected.
Oh, so connected. And
Yeah.
people are coming out, they're like high fiving, they're hugging, they're like fucking sweaty,
Yeah.
like touching each other. They don't
Yeah.
care, right?
Yeah.
But man, like the fact that that has all like been washed away, and like there's this this fear that I have a little bit of that it'll never go back to that. But obviously, like I know that I just have to trust that we will, But to be honest, like there's like the glory days are gone or something, right? So yeah, it's like been toying with my mind a little bit from that aspect for sure. And so yeah, I mean, it's like again, we're kind of going into this binary that we've been talking about a little bit, but um, I think the roller coasters maybe are better because like it's kind of like life, right? Like life is not like that, as we know. It's like
Waves, man. Waves in an ocean,
yeah,
right? Instead of off and on, right?
mm,
And yeah, dude, that's crippling. You were right at the center of community. You were
hmm
right at the center of connectedness and health and wellness and all this stuff, and shut down, right? targeted and shut down because it was dangerous.
It's dangerous. And you know what? It's interesting that yoga studios have been targeted than more than a lot of different places, like I mean, like spin, but like a lot of fitness and stuff. And fitness helps to liberate you, helps to make you feel good. And like more people are feeling good, the more they're empowered, the more they're going to speak up. And
Helps
I
to make
mean,
you healthy.
helps make you healthy, right? So yeah, it's interesting. And I mean, maybe that is going too much into conspiracy land. I don't know, but something to think about.
Something to think about. And I think these crazy times are having people question the mainstream narrative more and more.
Mm-hmm.
The term conspiracy theory has never been more mainstream, right? And some people on the outside of it think that every conspiracy that's ever been talked about is false. It's not true, right? Very close-minded people. Some people have done the research to realize that many conspiracies have turned out to be true, like FBI mind control programs, MK Ultra, stuff like that. Like these are released documents where the US government literally drugged people without their awareness to try to control their minds and studied them, and the people didn't know. Um, and the moment you look at a few of those studies and a few of these findings, you realize that there's been fuckery all about, all the time, and it's never stopped. So to people who think that we live in a society where there are no conspiracy theories or there's no secrets, none of that stuff's real, I ask them, when do you think it went from being the kings and queens in the castle and us slaves in the field to all of a sudden everybody's equal? To know it's a fair system. When do you think that switch happened? Right? Ronald Reagan, JFK, Clinton, Obama, like what era, like what group, like internationally, how did that happen? And then you just look at it and you're like, why is Hollywood trying to tell us in every single movie that the good guy always wins? How do I feel after seeing Tom Cruise beat the bad guy? Right? I feel fucking good. I sit down, I smoke some weed, I hang out. Oh, the good guy won. That made me feel good. Right?
Yeah.
And what if that's the lie? What if the bad guys are in charge? And what if the media is being used as a propaganda to help lull us into either quiet retreat or into division and riots and anger, right? And that's where we're at. I mean, they're announcing that they're extending lockdowns. They're talking about putting in curfews, all this stuff. The mortality rate of COVID is less deadly than it's ever been. More people have died, but it's less deadly. The mortality rate is less because the cases are growing exponentially. Every chart you look at with cases right now, it's like a hockey stick. It's straight up. And the mortality rate is just tickling along the bottom. So many, many more people are apparently getting it. But then you need to ask yourself in testing and all sorts of stuff. Anyways, there's a lot of granular shit there. But more and more people are getting it, and not equal amounts more are dying. It's not relative, right? So it's very interesting. COVID's getting safer by the day.
By the day. And I mean, so many people talking about it. And if you dig into the data, and our friend Brian, who is a respiratory therapist, he's done like a lot of research, going into like, the science and how to read scientific reports and things like that. And he was saying that, like, statistically, and the politicians don't want to acknowledge this, but like COVID is, like you were just saying, the mortality rate, like it's so low. Like it's like ridiculously low. And it's not like I want to put out there like that it's not dangerous. And like there are people that die from it. It is a virus, I believe, like for sure. But is it as deadly as we've been led to believe, that we need to like hide away, we can't hug people, that we can't, travel to see our family during the holidays? Fuck no.
I don't even think we're supposed to be doing this.
We're not supposed to be doing
Isn't
this.
Isn't it meeting groups of 0 or something like that? Like
Well,
no
outside your household.
outside of your household.
Yeah, definitely we're not supposed to be
We're
doing
technically
this.
breaking the law.
Breaking the law, people.
Right. Just kidding. Michael lives in this basement. We'll attach a disclaimer in the video. But yeah, man, I don't know. It's one of those things where if people remain quiet, it's not going to get better. Right? And talking about it does help, and sharing, our views on it does help. Even just for me. Because it's easy to get caught in the mustard. It's easy to get caught in all that bullshit. But instead, we need to focus on what we can do. Right? And when you get squeezed and when shit crumbles around you, you need to adapt. You need to retool. And I think one thing that COVID's done with people this year is it's caused them to reevaluate their life. how dependent were they on another person for their wage? How dependent are they on the system for toilet paper, for entertainment, right? For telling me what I can and can't do? How dependent am I on a system for my food supply, right? Like if things start to get really hairy, how much food security do I actually have? I don't think people have much. And one thing I know COVID's done to a lot of my friends is all of a sudden everybody has these new dreams of, instead of making it rich and running these big businesses and all this, everybody wants to buy land and grow their own food and find out how to run their business from the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's my dream, right? Because it just sounds beautiful. And in most of these dreams, it's like, how do we create a little commune? What are we going to do with our children? Like, how are we going to raise them? What things can we do that are very present and help build this idea? And it's people wanting to retribe. It's people
Mm-hmm.
wanting to have that community again. We want community, right? And I think this break from people being in the office and stuff is forcing a lot of people to reevaluate everything with how they're spending their time in their life,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, new year and new opportunities, right? They say that 2020 was clear vision to be able to see. And I don't think it means see the world. I don't think it means see the truth, because I think those things are obscured. I think 2020 is about hopefully being able to see ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Can you evaluate how you fared the storm, how you're faring the storm right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you get a real pulse in your life and make a plan to how you're going to change? Because if you don't make that plan, it's not going to change. And maybe you had to be hollowed out so that you could move on the right path, so that you could start filling up, so that you could start doing something that meant something more to you, right? Maybe, just maybe, this is the greatest opportunity that ever was. And if you reframe your mind, you can ask yourself, how do you want to build your life going forward? And there's no reason it can't be better.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are your thoughts about 2021?
My thoughts about 2021. Well, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the narrative is always, going into a new year that it's like it's shiny, it's new, and like, it's going to be somehow better than last year, right? And a lot of people, they don't put in the work to make it better. So you know what? January to maybe February, or it's to the January 15th, it maybe is better because your mindset, it's like, yeah, new year, right? But if you don't put in the work and you're not, the work, I mean, that's a deeper subject, right? Whether that's doing breath work when you wake up in the morning and meditation and then journaling, that's what I've been doing. This is like a foundational thing, but doing the work, whatever it is for you, that's like healthy and positive, and you just have to tune into what that is for yourself. But
Mm.
if you're not doing that, then nothing's going to change, right?
Nothing's going to change.
Nothing's going to change.
It's like we were talking about before, the law of attraction. And the law of attraction, it's everywhere, right? Like, just become what you want to manifest, right? In your mind, just meditate and draw it to you. Just, try to get rid of your scarcity and just be abundance, and wealth will start flowing to you, right? The Secret. How many of you out there have seen The Secret or heard of The Secret, right? Supported by big talking heads like Oprah, et cetera, right? All these people, this release of seemingly mystical knowledge, the law of attraction. And it resonates because in some way we have all experienced it. When you're being negative and you're putting negativity out, more of it does come to you or is reflected to you. Same thing with positivity and love. The more loving you are, the more love comes to you, right? Good things just happen to some people, right? It's not for no reason. Good things don't often happen to people doing bad shit, right? Law of attraction, basic mechanics. But the problem and the lie is that people think that they can manifest these things by sitting on their ass and just meditating and just thinking. And it's like, we are in a 3D reality, right? We are creators of this world, and we aren't just minds, we aren't just energy. We've been giving bodies to do stuff. And just as you need to go out and plant that seed and actually do the act, you need to do that in your life and in your business and in your relationships and in everything. And so people get stuck thinking, why aren't I manifesting wealth? Why isn't it coming to me? And as they get squeezed and squeezed and squeezed, instead of figuring out where to pop out to and where to go with all that pressure, with all that fire under your ass, people are instead thinking to themselves, why isn't it working? Why isn't manifestation working? And then at some point you get bitter and you think, well, is it even real? Is there even magic to this world? Is any of this real? And the secret ingredient that's missing is you're not moving forward,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think the analogy I used before was like a heat-seeking missile.
Mm.
It's like the law of attraction will help guide you and help put things in front of your path, but you're in charge of making that thing go. You need to move the boat, and the winds of the divine universe will carry you to where you need to go, but you need to sail that ship.
Yeah, and that I like that heat-seeking missile because like you got to be that rocket fuel for that freaking missile to like hit its target or whatever, right? Yeah.
And so that's why it's important to be building momentum. And one of the most crazy things about the New Year's that I found out this year is that there's an inversion placed on our calendar to break our momentum, right? The Gregorian calendar, which was created in the 1500s, somewhere around there, um, they added some months to the calendar and they decided to start the new year in January, right? January being Janus, the god of doorways, the god of the future and the past, the two-faced god in Greek mythology. Janus was celebrated for these things, the coming in and the going out, right? But it's placed at a time where the new year is starting in the middle of winter, in the depths of winter, in hibernation vibes. Everybody is moving slow. It's heavy. We worked our asses off for the spring, the summer, the fall. We've hunkered down like the animal kingdom. And instead, they're telling us, no, the new year's right now, right in the dead of winter.
Mm.
And it's an inversion placed there to mess with the momentum of the entire world. When you look at other calendar systems, on many of them, the new year starts in the spring, at the spring equinox, when the sun is equidistant from the northern and the southern hemispheres. So when the sun is basically on top of the equator. And I don't know about you, and I don't know about you guys, but I feel amazing in the spring. I bounce out of bed. I spring forward. Any idea is a possibility. Nature is abundant, right? Things are blooming. Everything's coming out. Colors starting to come out everywhere. And that makes a lot more sense for the start of the year. Imagine if we were starting in spring. Okay, everybody, 3, 2, 1, go. It's in March. Everything's beautiful. You go outside. I feel great. You're getting that feedback from nature. Everybody has energy. The sun's showing itself more. Instead, man, we've been cucked. They've inverted the whole thing and they've started us off in the dead of winter. And that's something we need to overcome
Mm-hmm.
in this relatively recent calendar system where they've
Yeah.
introduced this model.
And for women, it's particularly detrimental because their cycle, like, their moon cycle, their menstrual cycle, whatever you want to call it, is usually more on like a 28-day cycle. Everyone's different, of course, but having 30, 31 days, the way that it's broken out, it like doesn't match up or align with women's cycles at all, and like can actually like inhibit like the divine feminine, right? And I mean, we are living in a patriarchal system too, right? And that wants to like suppress that energy. And I mean, the Gregorian calendar, the reason it's made is for economics,
Yeah.
right? For productivity.
Yeah, and I personally think something a little more sinister.
Yeah.
Back in the Roman days, like they were doing some pretty sinister stuff, especially as the empire was changing, falling. Right, the Roman Empire transformed into the Vatican as they took hold of Roman Catholicism. Right, and there's some interesting inversions there, which has led to rampant sexual harassment, in an institutionalized way, and all sorts of dark shit.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to the Gregorian calendar, man, I think that they're messing with the system on purpose. These same kings and queens looking at the slaves in the field saying, how do we keep them down?
Mm-hmm.
Right? The world is changing. How do we keep them down? How do we break it? How do we keep women confused and off their cycle? How do we take out any synchronization, any predictability, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that would be one way to do it, to mess with time. Another way to do it is to mess with the food system. We've seen this with Monsanto and glyphosates and spraying Roundup on shit.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen this with the political system, with what's going on now. It's like, how do you break it? How do you break the people? How do you divide them? How do you keep them the dumb slaves in the field?
Mm-hmm.
And this can all sound very dark, and awareness about this stuff can feel that way at first until you realize it's always been this way. I shouldn't say always, but in recent history, and we're just becoming aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that place of awareness, it's important to continue until you get to the point where you realize that no matter what's going on in this world, that big picture, it's not actually going to affect you and where the human race is going, because the powers that control that are a lot more magical and a lot more powerful, at least from what I've experienced.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So
It's interesting. Yeah. You're kind of putting some pieces together for me as we're talking about this Gregorian calendar and, um, yeah, the deeper levels of maybe fuckery that's going on.
there's a lot of it. And, this is raise your state, right? But I think part of that, it's very important, is to see with clear eyes. And the hard thing with conspiracies is that it's very hard to know what is. It's very hard to know what the truth is. It's much easier to try to disprove something. What isn't it, right? And if you can go around and you can poke holes in it and it falls apart, then it's not truth. It's not foundational to tell you I know exactly what it is and what it looks like. No, I have no idea, right? But I think I know what it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that starting off the new year in the middle of the winter is weird. And so when I looked into it and realized that it's a very recent adjustment and that normally the start of the year was in March, that's weird. And then you keep pulling on that thread and you look in any direction, be it health, be it entertainment, be it political stance, be it anything, pick anything. And there is so much, we're using the word a lot, but there's so much fuckery about. There really is. And they tell us that we are the most advanced humanity has ever been.
Mm-hmm.
And yet here we are. It's very strange. It's enough to drive you crazy. And the only way to find your peace is to go deeper and deeper and deeper, but not into the details, deeper into yourself, deeper into connecting. Because the moment you have those little moments of divine connection, all of a sudden you realize that this game that's going on out here isn't the big picture. It's like doing a high dose psychedelic trip.
Mm-hmm.
It resets your perspective. Try being worried about Trump and all this stuff and then doing a high dose psychedelic trip. Try worrying about it afterwards. It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Like, I know that's part of the reason you do psychedelics as well, right? Is to just like clean the slate.
Cleanse the doors of perception, as they say. Well, that was the Mr. Jim Morrison.
Mm.
And yeah, I was just away in Hornby. And, technically I live in Victoria. Hornby is up island. And, according to the lawmakers, our politicians, we're not supposed to be doing that. Shouldn't be traveling to this island. And, I'm healthy and I know that, through studies that they haven't released here in North America, like you can't even spread COVID if you're asymptomatic. That's something that's not being talked about, right? Yeah. And anyway, so me and my partner felt healthy. We didn't really interact with a ton of people out in nature a lot, so it felt safe going there regardless. But yeah, technically we weren't supposed to. But while we're there, high dose psychedelic experience, and yeah, just hope it clears out the plaque. It just feels like my heart or something, my heart and my brain. I mean, my whole body. These kind of key centers feels like there's this plaque that builds up on them, and like I just need to do a big trip once in a while. And we're not talking a little dose. Like I'm talking like I like to go big, like a hero's dose, as Terrence McKenna would say, right? Yeah. And just blow, kind of blow yourself into this other realm and and just clear away some of the mustard, just clear away the mustard, the things that don't matter, the thing worrying about COVID, worrying about Trump and all these other things, and come to a place where you feel more loving first of all to yourself, but then towards your family, your friends, to the world. And you want to go out and hug everybody, but guess what, you're not allowed to hug everybody right now.
It's fear, right? When you talk about eliminating all that worry, it's eliminating fear.
It's eliminating fear,
right? And society has a way where if you focus on society, your fear saturation starts going up. It's like heavy metals building up in your body. It's like a little bit of fear, a little bit of fear, a little bit of fear every day, and it's like tick 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 tick, and it goes up to a point where you feel fucking squirrely, right? Mm-hmm. Like I'm sure you've had that, where you're looking around and you're doing things that are betraying your true nature, and in those moments you hopefully can see yourself, and it's like, who am I? Like what? Like why am I acting this way, mm-hmm. right? Walking down the street, why did I walk away from that person and give them extra space? Like they didn't seem to be afraid. Am I afraid? I'm not afraid.
Mm-hmm.
I'm obviously afraid of something. And it's important to eliminate that fear. And I don't think psychedelics is for everybody. I
Yeah.
don't. And I think that they need to be used very responsibly. And
Mm-hmm.
it might sound like we do psychedelics all the time by the way we're talking about it, but I haven't done psychedelics for, I don't know, a month or something.
Mm-hmm.
Very intentional. But that is the tool that I have chosen, that sweet baby Jesus planted on this earth for us to pick and eat, and our bodies understand how it works, and it totally tunes us up when done properly. And if done right, you can even have a truly divine experience.
Mm-hmm.
But for some people, it is that exercise. For some people, it is that, it's like something a little more practical, a little more daily. That's the biggest issue with what's going on, is they've taken that away.
Mm-hmm.
And so people are getting this, they're getting mustardy. They're just, they're looking at the chaos, right? I see people looking at the politics going on, and I see them posting on Facebook, Trump's fired. Yeah, finally. Yeah, he's out. Never have I been so edge of my seat. Or how much energy are you giving to this?
Mm-hmm.
How much are you giving away? What are you, like we said last time, what are you building for yourself? Right? And hopefully, with what COVID's done and this massive shakeup that everybody's experiencing, you need to be sitting there asking yourself, what are you going to do about the next thing that happens? How are you preparing yourself to be unshakable? How are you
Mm-hmm.
preparing yourself to be more self reliant and not so reliant on the system?
Mm-hmm.
Because here's a newsflash, folks, this is not the last of these pandemics that we're going to see, right?
No.
Bill Gates with a smile is smirking, saying, "The next one, they're gonna get that." Him and his lady are
Melinda.
smiling. Yeah, it's disgusting, all of it, and we need to be ready. It might not in your lifetime go back to normal. How are you dealing with that? Are you okay with that? What's the plan? What's the next thing? Especially if you're the head of your family. This is an important thing to ask. And if you're just sitting there waiting for your job to come back so you can go work for somebody else and give away your time, watch out. You're not steering your ship, right? You're sweeping the poop deck hoping you don't get fired or booted overboard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a very safe place to be. And with the way I look at the world and the controllers that are running it, if I don't spend the next 20 years building out self-reliance, like, I'm really fucking it up,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I don't start growing my own food and work to get some land and work together with friends and people I trust to build a business, to create something, I'm really fucking it up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that these pandemics are going to hit again and again and again and again, because as they've demonstrated, um, it's a great agent for control.
It is. Yeah, they're just gonna keep trying to whittle us away to where they have total and absolute control. And yeah, this looks like, democracy, but it's really, whatever you want to call it, communism or socialism, or just these terms. It's basically total control over your freaking life. And that's the way it's going.
That's the way it's going, man. And I think democracy is an illusion. I think the whole thing is an illusion.
Yeah.
I think that both sides are two sides of the same coin. And if you give your time and energy to voting for one side, or, wishing for one side, or you're just playing the game,
Mm-hmm.
right? How do you get out of the game? How do you detach? How do you break out of the matrix, right? It's like a common, like, way to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're plugged in. We rely on it. I'm still reliant on it, right? I go to the grocery store to get food. If I didn't have a grocery store to get food, how many days would it take to run out of food completely?
Oh my gosh. And I think that's something really important to say, that like everybody listening to this, like we haven't figured it out entirely. Like I buy everything at the grocery store at this point. Like there's a few things I forage maybe, but like
Yeah.
especially during the winter though, to be honest, like, I'm not foraging a lot.
No,
It's not
hibernating. Yeah.
hibernating, man, right? So yeah, like we're in this, like you are, is like figuring out these next steps. And like in your mind, like what are these next steps that we can break ourselves free?
We need to think of what we're missing right now.
Mm-hmm.
What are we missing? We're missing community. We're missing connection. We're missing food security. We're missing um, our own health security, to be able to internally in our groups keep ourselves healthy, right? Like, really healthy. And when we can figure these things out and bring them together and form a community, um, Yeah, the kings and queens in the castles, the people, wanting your votes, wanting you to play the game, wanting your energy. If you're detached from the system and you own land and you're there with five friends and you've bought it together because you've figured out how to work together, how to not fight, real relationships, real friendships, holy smokes, they don't want that. You're fishing for your own food, you're hunting, you're growing your own food, you're detached, your kids are all playing together. It's a perfect little community of everything you need. You've got an internet connection so you can peek on the world and run your business, which anybody can do now. Do you think they want that? They don't want that. Imagine if they came to your beautiful little utopia you've created 20 years from now and they knock at your door and they say, I'm sorry, everybody here needs to wear masks. You'd laugh them off your property. Get out of here. We don't need you, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that everybody listening, if your goal isn't to somehow figure out how to feed yourself and take care of yourself and to not get blindsided when the next pandemic or next event happens, you're sleeping. You're
Mm-hmm.
asleep. If you're hearing these words and that sounds crazy, you're asleep. Like I'm sorry. Like this will happen again. And I'm not saying that from an elitist position, like I'm woke, I'm awake. No, we're waking up. We're in the process of waking up and figuring it out. But hopefully 2020 has shown you your areas that you're lacking and where you need to improve.
Mm-hmm.
Those should be the goals.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. Yeah, we
So
need, yeah, we, yeah,
we
even for me, like hearing you say that, I'm like, whoa, like
and
level up.
level up and not to scare people, like Michael said, like we are in this society. We don't have the farm yet. We don't
Mm-hmm.
have the community yet. But why do you think we're filming this? Why do you think we have cameras? It's not to make a bunch of money. It's so that we can learn how to create content. It's so we can learn to express ourselves. It's so we can learn how to provide value to people. It's so we can get online.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been a consumer for so long. It's time to become a creator. It's time for all of you guys watching to become creators and to learn on the job as you're doing it, because getting online and being able to express yourself on video is only going to become more and more relevant. Otherwise, you're just consuming,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if we're just consuming, it's very easy to get fucked with.
Very
And
easy.
my New Year's resolution, it should be all of your guys' New Year's resolution, is how do we become a little bit more unshakable, right? How do we become a little more immovable, so that when the waves crash, so that when the darkness comes, so that when the shit hits the fan, you sit there and you say, I'm ready for this. I was ready for this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready. I don't think it'll go back to normal afterwards. I don't, because we've been pushed to a new possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't put the jack back in the box, right? There'd never been a pandemic like this in the modern age, right? There's never been people so divided, right? I saw people yelling the other day on the streets. One guy was yelling at another guy who wasn't wearing a mask. And the guy with the mask and they were so angry. They were so afraid. The guy with the mask starts yelling and he's afraid. He's so afraid. And for the first time ever, we can see people's fear right on their face, on everybody. People are wearing a fucking banner, dude. They put it on their face and they walk around. I'm afraid of
Mm-hmm.
something.
Something.
Even, and it sounds heartless, but like it is fear. You are afraid. And people are like, no, but it's for the elderly and I don't want people to die. And okay, concern is great. All of that is great. And if you believe these things are helping, that's fine. Do your due diligence. But at the foundation of all of this, it is fear. We are afraid something bad will happen. There's no two ways around it. You're heartless. What about the old people? You're afraid they're going to die because you'll be around them, instead of believing that there is magic to this world and that what's supposed to happen will happen, right? And they're a very different state.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally think we need to get more into the knowing of our true nature.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not just this. This isn't it. It doesn't stop. And that's again one thing that psychedelics can help with, because it can blast you off to a realm where you're not here, and then you realize that it's infinite.
It's a beautiful place to get to. Yeah, I think going back to, like you said earlier, that it is important to recognize that psychedelics aren't for everybody. Um, just putting that out there, because and talking about hero doses and these things, like don't go willy nilly into that. But there's many things that you can look into on the internet, people's case studies, and we want to talk about it more as well. But yeah, maybe like that is a path that you could take to start to liberate your mind and your spirit, and like maybe having less fear in your life. And like on a psychedelic trip, you're going to have to confront some fear, and you're gonna have to most likely, experience some discomfort and like go, your New Year's resolution become unshakable or unfuckable or whatever you want to call it. Um, and like you say, I think it should be everybody's for this year or going forward. And you're going to have to like confront that directly if you do psychedelics. And like that's why it can be kind of a fast track and a beautiful medicine for that. Um, yeah, I really believe that that's the path we need to tread in 2021.
I agree. And if they're telling you that you can't be in a yoga class with a bunch of other people crushing it and breaking through those moments, try sitting at home. Try eating a mushroom in silence. Try seeing what happens, right? And like you said, there's going to be that little tickle of fear, of apprehension. Try to break through it, because on the other side is your happiness,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it'll remind you of the importance of getting back to now and cleansing yourself in the present moment, which you can do right now. If you're watching this and you're full of anxiety, or that person said something and made me feel bad, right? You're in one of these kinds of situations where, oh, I need to wind down. The better you get at returning to the now, the quicker you can wash that off and move to the next step. And so there needs to be a practice of finding this balance in your life, of getting back to a less fearful state.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you do it, the easier it is. And then you see something happen on the TV, like people storm the Capitol, and instead of freaking out, oh my God, the world's going to shit. What's happening? Oh no, down with Trump, down with this. I think I know what's going on. I'm pissed. It's all these emotions. You step back and you say, life's a charade. It's a game.
Mm-hmm.
Shakespeare knew it. It's been happening forever. I'm now watching it. It's all a game. We're infinite beings, and I'm not afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the opposite of what they want.
It's the opposite. So like what's something tangible though that we can tell you beautiful people that they can take away to start this? Like, okay, like the world, people at the top, they're fucking with us. Everything that we know is like basically inverted.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lie. Like what are these first steps of like, or maybe not first steps, but steps that people can take? And I'm thinking about this for myself in my own life too, right? Like, constantly just kind of breaking out of this, I guess.
Yeah. I think that different things are going to resonate with different people at different times,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we can talk about a few of them, but if it's not working for you and it's not flowing, if it feels like too much friction, maybe you need to change tack, right? It's like somebody can go hard into personal development and it goes in one ear and out the other. And they say, I did it. I read all these books. I know people who, I read 100 books this year, right? And they're running around and they're, I read 100 books. It's like, how many books full of spelling, how many spelled books did you put through your mind of somebody else's opinion where the author made you read every single word and put you in the palm of his hand to feel exactly what he wanted you to feel? How many books? How many autobiographies of other people? How many other people are you looking up to?
Mm-hmm.
I think you need to change that to look internal. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're listening to these audiobooks and it's not really clicking, maybe you just need to go outside and ground more. Maybe you need to find more time in nature. Maybe you need to realize that you haven't been having any fun in your life. 2020, there's a lot of people who had no fun, right? Like, I'm guilty of it a lot too, because my mind was spent worrying. Right? And I talk about these things, but again, it's not something you have. You're not just fearless. It's something you return to, right? It's returning to that balanced state. And sometimes I'll be listening to audiobooks, and instead I should just be out putting my feet in the ocean. I should be out doing nothing instead of putting more in. I should be doing nothing because I've had too much input.
Mm-hmm.
So one tip for some of you is turn it off.
Turn it off.
After you watch this whole podcast and share it with your friends. But turn it off. Turn it off, right? Get off. Go outside. Like, can you chill out? And some people need tools for that. Some people can go out and just chill and be super zen. I like to go out and smoke some weed and chill in the grass, and it helps me to slow down, and it helps me to just return to now and bliss out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And some people like to go for a run. Some people like to go bask in the sun, right? Find your thing. You need to be the architect of the life you want to have.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're continuously worrying about the future, you're sacrificing the now. And the only place happiness lives is in the now, not in the future. Worry exists in the future. Regret exists in the past. Both of those things corrupt the now,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when you take time to self-nurture, it's an easy way to find your feet again.
Mm.
So if you're really at that point where you're fucking spiraling around, head chopped off, running around like a chicken with its head chopped off, just what's going on? How do you get back to now? And it's like that'll be different for everybody. But that's more important than the information you learned, because it's literally that's the moment you grab the handlebars of your life again and you're like, "Oh yeah, I'm in charge." Instead of what I just saw, instead of my emotions, instead of my mind and what I think. Letting go of that and returning to the self, and here I am. And in this moment, I'm perfectly fine.
Mm.
Right? So
Yeah.
I think that's my biggest hack for when I need to vibe back up. Because I love looking at the internet and staring at this
Oh.
stuff and looking at it and what do I think and moving it around and who posted this. And I do get involved, very involved. But I also have practices for washing it off.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, it's really heavy.
It's heavy. No, while you were talking, it made me think. I'm like, okay, what is something maybe that's even universal though that every single person watching this could do, just to even start this journey though, right? And I think one thing that you kind of were getting into though is rather than taking more stuff in, whether it's from audiobooks, real books on your freaking Kindle, whatever it is, podcasts, yeah, podcasts.
Except for this one.
Except for this one. Versus doing that, just like release from all this like information and honestly for me, like going back to my trip to Hornby, like I took a technology detox. I put my phone away. I didn't turn it on for solid 4 days. It was even longer, probably closer to 5. And it was just, oh my God.
Amazing.
Oh
It's
my God.
amazing.
It was so beautiful. And if I could like give advice and honestly, I would have liked to have even gone longer potentially, right? A week, 2 weeks. But, having that is, I think, maybe one of the most powerful things that everybody could do. Just like have a total reset to where you're not like taking in other stimulus and other information, and where you can get in tune with yourself and like what you actually feel. And then maybe from there, that place where you're just like not having a bunch of shit coming in, after a few days, day 3, day 4, whatever it is, you're like, oh, you know what's like really nourished me is going out in more nature, take off my shoes, get on the dirt, just close my eyes, breathe, listen to some good music, maybe like move my body around, maybe it's doing yoga, whatever, right? But like from that place, then figuring out, okay, like what's going to nourish me, what's going to help me to, liberate my mind going forward, right? But
And I think a lot of people lost that when COVID shut down the yoga classes and the spin classes and the community, like everything, because some people would just go to these, a lot of people, most people would go to these classes and that was their grounding. That was their release, right? Oh, you lay on the mat at yoga before you start and you're like, oh, and it's just the self-love just washes over you. I'm here for me. I'm here for this. I'm here for now. You don't think about anything else. God, it's beautiful. And by the time you're done, you've been so wrung out and you've pushed yourself and it was so hard that the rest of it doesn't seem that hard. Some of those poses when you're holding them and you're sitting there and you're shaking, you're like, holy smokes, this is gonna end me. It's so hard. And then the moment you stop, it turns down the volume on all of life's issues and you're just like, and then you see crazy shit on your phone and you're like, meh. You're always more blissed out. Try going for a workout and then caring about something you read on your phone, some thing in your head. It's almost impossible to do because you're just so blissed out. And when this virus and everything around it has taken that away from you, have you replaced that? When your yoga class was taken away, what have you replaced it with? When you're working out, or your community, when your community was taken away, what have you replaced it with? If you haven't replaced it with something and you're sitting there waiting to manifest it, come back to my third eye and bring me, it's not going to happen. You got to go do it. You got to go make it. That's why we're here in this reality. And it's a new opportunity to retool. It's a beautiful opportunity, right? What do you think? It's a brand new start. Will it go back to being the same? I don't think so. That's beautiful. We're not the same. Things are different, right? Can you take stock on how 2020 was, see it with perfect vision, and make a proper goal for 2021 so that when it happens again, you can smile and you can be 2 steps ahead and you can be detached and you can be in love instead of fear. And if you can do those things, That's Raise Your State, right? There's a bunch of different ways to vibe up, to attack this thing. Community is one of them, right? Community and love, relationships. That's definitely one. We're social beings. Self mastery is one. Becoming better at something, becoming more knowledgeable. It doesn't have to be audiobooks. It can be your physique. It can be your body. It can be your movement. It can be, I don't know, your running technique. It could be anything like that. Practicing love, self love. How many people spend time at home like practicing self love actively?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to do. We often don't make the time. We self sacrifice instead of self love.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can be conscious about these things, there's a bunch other too. But if you can be conscious about these things, then man, you can weather the storm. You're unshakable, and that should be the goal. Because how many of you were shaken in 2020? Everybody was shaken, right? Let's not let that happen again.
No, well said.
So it can seem very doom and gloom out there, but I hate it when people are like, no, let's not talk about that. No, let's just focus on the positive. Let's just. It's like you need to look into the darkness sometimes to know which corners need to be illuminated, where to shine the light,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the darkness or fear only has power when you're not shining a light. It's a cult, it's hidden, it's out of sight. And it's like fear. Even the idea of love and fear, right? People think it's dualistic. There's love and there is fear. It doesn't work that way. Fear is just an absence of love.
Mm-hmm.
Like shadow isn't its own thing. Darkness isn't its own thing. It's an absence of light, right? It's not, oh, the darkness is coming and filling the room. It's just an absence of light,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it's more of a spectrum. Move towards love. And I remember, like, if I had said this stuff 2 years ago, like it sounded very cheesy. Love. You say the word love. And one of the things that they've really done a good job of is told us that love is pink and it's heart shaped. And this is what love is, and it's girly and it's not like that,
No.
right? And any form of love that's external pales in comparison to the love you can have for yourself, the love within. And once you do, you become overflowing and you have love for others.
Mm-hmm.
But without that self love, you can't actually love anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're out there wondering why you're not in a loving relationship, it's because you don't love yourself enough. And when you love yourself enough, right, you might be shaking your fist at me. Oh, but I love myself. If you love yourself enough, then my words won't even shake you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you love yourself enough to not think less of yourself because you're not in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's this mentality where it's like, if you love yourself enough, you will have everything you want. You'll be whole unto yourself. And from that state of wholeness, of love, moving forward, happy, momentum, love will manifest in another in your life. It will draw it to you because that's how things work. That is what synchronicity is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can actually, like, as you're speaking, like, distinctly, like, think of that moment, for me. And actually, before I met my partner Sarah, who I've been 5.5 years, I think, now that we've been together. And before that, I just, like, this tumultuous, you know yeah, like, not having a lot of love for myself before, and, like, just doing, honestly, like, going deep into psychedelics, and lots of just personal development in different ways, and, like, having to, like, go through those hard times to really, like, start to love myself. And it wasn't like I was, like, fully healed, or even now, like, I have moments all the time where I get down on myself and I feel like I'm not enough, or um, have uncertainty, or these other things that come up. For sure, it's like a continual journey. But I think it's like getting to a place, at least, where you love yourself, like, a great deal. Love yourself more than you don't love yourself, if we want to put it in those terms. And yeah, then you can start to bring that person in. I remember, like, distinctly, that when I felt like that tipping into that other realm, and then I was able to, like, go out, and when I was going to date people, it was like I was able to, like, magnetize that great love in my life,
Mm-hmm.
because I felt, great love in myself.
What were some of the things you did that changed how you loved yourself?
Mm. I mean, honestly, like, for me, it's like movement is a big thing, like yoga. I mean, that's why I'm a yoga teacher, is because it just had such a profound effect on me, that there's something about yoga practice, man, when you go deep and you're just like, you're in it, and, like, just, yeah, for me, it forces me to, like, have to process stuff. Actually, before I came here, I knew that we were gonna have this talk, and I was like, I felt stagnant. I was on the computer all day.
Mm.
I was like, I gotta do a little bit of move. I didn't even do a ton. I did 20 minutes.
Mm.
That's all could fit in today. And that 20 minutes, it was beautiful. But like, I was having to sit with some things. Like, there was some fear that was coming up. There was some uncertainty. There was like some shame that I hadn't done more yoga or movement that day. Like that I was on the computer, like blah 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 blah. But like these different difficult motions coming up. But just taking that 20 minutes, just breathing, being on the mat, man, it is just pure freaking medicine.
Mm.
Like, so for me, that's like one of the biggest things that like helped me, like just that peeling back the layers. And then obviously like psychedelics to expedite that.
Yeah.
Like straight up.
Yeah. I think to myself about my self-love and how I like a similar situation. And psychedelics played a massive role. I'd moved from Victoria to Vancouver for a new job as a business coach, consultant, performance management coach. And I was coaching 16 people and having to be their life support every day when people are falling off the edge, their staff have quit, they owe clients money because jobs have gone sideways, etc. And I really needed to stay topped up. And I had this little studio apartment, 400 square feet to myself, and it was the first time I was like living on my own. And I remember starting to experiment with psilocybin, magic mushrooms. And from the time I started, over the course of 3 months, I must have gone on 20 trips by myself, just solo, nobody else. And what that did for me was unbelievable. And again, I don't think it's everybody's path, but feel I'd feel off if I didn't tell you how I did it because it worked for me. Seems to have worked for you. Um, but I just had all these moments of realizations. Like I didn't need a teacher in that moment. I didn't need anything else. It all came from within. It was like there was time to process. It's like I could hear myself, right? And I remember one trip. I'd been doing these trips and listening to music the entire time. All this sensory information, right? All this stimulus. It was beautiful. It was fantastical. I felt like I was changing in different ways, and I loved it. But then I had one trip, and I thought, what if I do with no sensory input? Earplugs, blindfold, right? Complete darkness with nothing. And I did a trip like that. But then as I started, I took the blindfold off and I had earplugs and I went into my bathroom and I stood in front of a full length mirror and I looked at myself, stared in my eyes as I came up on this high dose. And as I stared at myself, I took stock of my entire life and it brought me to tears multiple times. Like the baby inside of me could just like release. The child inside of me could come back. The adult in me could take a break. Every part of me could just, whoa, just let go. And I saw myself. I saw the man I was. I saw the decisions I'd been making in my life, the moral decisions which I could sleep well with. I saw the person I was becoming. I saw who I was as a child. I saw all these different things and I fell in love with myself. As I stared at myself, I fell in love with my body, which I wasn't in love with before, but I fell in love with every part of me because my body took me here. Because it's this sophisticated, spiritual, physical vessel that takes us through this human experience that allows us to touch and feel and taste and sing and dance and write and all these things. And I got to just see it. And then I thought of my parents and my upbringing. I thought of what I thought were injustices or what should have been done differently or how people should have acted, right? How you should have been a better parent, right? And I really thought about all that. And the truth came rushing to me. And it was that everybody is a product of their environment and they're trying their best. And so are you. And here you are staring at yourself. And everybody has a soul and everybody wants to do their best. Everybody wants to do well. And if you can't, it's a complicated situation, but I basically forgave my parents and my siblings and my old teachers and all these people in my life, and I just forgave them all. I was like, oh, like I love myself right here and right now, so I can't hate anything that happened to me because every part of it was essential for getting me here where I love myself. And if I love myself in the present, I love myself through eternity for all of it. And man, I was never the same after that one trip. And it was about, I don't know, $10 worth of mushrooms, $15 worth of mushrooms, right? At home, no alcohol was consumed, no sugar, processed food, no bullshit, no TV was watched. It was time with myself and a plant grown by Mother Nature or God or whatever you want to call it. And it changed my life forever.
Mhm.
So, I mean, there might be something there for you viewers, right? I know there is for us. But once you start to love yourself, again, it's not a thing you just have and that's it. It's a thing you need to return to. And when you make decisions in alignment with your heart, it's very easy to stay in that space. It's very easy to love yourself if you're not betraying yourself. But if you're afraid to look in the mirror, with or without psychedelics, you're afraid to look into your own eyes, it's because you're making decisions out of alignment. And that's okay. You need to forgive yourself, but you need to go into that, not away from it, because otherwise it's going to plague you for your entire life. And you'll be making decisions thinking, why did I do that? Why did I take the lower road instead of the higher road? My lesser self. You're not taking a moment to take stock on your life, to really recenter yourself. And so, yeah, that was kind of my experience, but life changing.
No, and I completely resonate with that because I mean, on my last trip, a week ago, less than a week ago, I did the exact same thing. I pretty much every time I trip, especially in home environment, I go into the bathroom and I just like take some time, just look deep into my eyes and like, man, you have to like really come to a place of self-love. Like you just have no other option.
There's nowhere to hide.
There's nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
You go there. I think the other thing I love too, and people that have done psychedelics will be able to resonate with this. If you haven't, you're like, what the heck? But you can see your whole like energetic like avatar. It's like this like the tattooed like painting of like multicolored amazingness like all over your body. And you're like, whoa,
it can be freaky at first.
It can be freaky at first.
At first you're like, I'm a ghoul. I'm a goblin. Yeah. My skin is see-through.
My skin is see-through. Right?
But
yeah.
But yeah, these are ways that have worked for us to shake ourselves out of our state. But hopefully from this conversation, you've gained something, because the world is crazy out there, and to expect it's not going to be crazy. Oh, this year is different. 2021, this is going to be all sunshine and rainbows, and I'm just going to sit here and just manifest greatness. That's not how it works. No, it won't be. 2021 might be way harder than 2020. It might be. Are you ready for it?
Are you ready for COVID-21?
COVID 2021, new strain, less deadly, more lockdowns.
Yeah.
Are you ready for the next storm? And that's going to be a recurring message on this podcast because people need to be reminded of it. And that's not a message that the news is pumping out. Hey, strengthen yourself, strengthen your immune system, your bonds, your friendships, separate from the system, become independent, grow your own food. They're not talking about that on the news. And if you're not hanging out with people because of the social distancing, you're not talking about other people, hopefully you can watch it from your home and gain something from this. And we're just going to keep doing our thing because this is for our evolution more than anything.
I don't know one way you can. I'm going to take some right now.
Yeah.
Increase your immunity. Take some beautiful mushroom plant medicine, adaptogenic supplement, some urban mana in this case.
I took some before this conversation. Keep me
Would you like
tuned
some
up. No, I can't. I don't know if I'll go to bed if I have some.
That's fair.
But yeah, folks, basically 2021, don't beat yourself up if you don't have a ton of momentum right now. The new year doesn't start till March, right? When nature tells us it's a new year, when the sun tells us it's a new year, when the plants are budding, when you feel it in your bones, when you can jump out of bed and conquer anything. So don't beat yourself up if you need to hibernate for the next little while. Hunker down, figure out what your next step is, be gentle on yourself. Maybe spend some time to work on self-love, however you choose to do that. But for this next year, watch your expectations, because if you're expecting that it's just going to be rainbows and butterflies, the kings and the queens that are up in the castle, that's not their plan for us peasants. And so we need to become unshakable. That is the goal. And hopefully if you're watching this, that is your mission too.
Oh yeah. Unshakeable, baby.
Thank you very much for watching, folks. That was the video cast. We're going to be back and we're going to be trying to do this a little bit more regular. now that the holidays are over.
And we'll play this same tune that we entered this experience with.
If you have the time, or if you don't, make the time. Plug in some headphones, take a moment for yourself, because if you can't escape to the forest or dip your feet in the ocean, or you can't find some fungi to hang out at home with and explore your mind, at least you have beautiful music. Hopefully, you've been liking the music that we've been playing. Check out our SoundCloud page, it's going to be linked. If you like it, follow along. But most importantly, save the beautiful music, share the beautiful music. It's the most wonderful gift. I remember early on when I found new music, my egotistical lower self wanted to keep it for myself and to just play it for people and just, oh, don't give away all of it. And then something broke in me early on, and I was like, what are you thinking? Give it away, share it everywhere. And something beautiful happened. Now I show up at my friends' houses and amazing music is playing. And I talk to a friend and they say, oh, I was in my car driving along the water and I played this song and it changed my week, and that's beautiful. So thank you guys for watching. Michael, anything else on your end?
No, I'm just going to hold this crystal and pump out to the good music. Big love, everyone.
Get yourself a crystal. It's important for your vibe.
It's important for your vibe. For
Summer, ooh, someday.